Greetings, geeks. This is another episode of Geeking Off the Page. I'm the white-maned toad charmer, a red-hot ninja who strikes fear into the hearts of all people. Yes, I'm speaking of none other than myself, Master Jiraiya.
He's lying. It's my kitchen. By the way, I'm Trevor.
I'm Troy.
And I'm Gavin, currently being smothered by a giant hairy rug.
Was he? Oh.
And if you're keeping track, this is episode 58. But why the hell are you keeping track?
Why are you keeping track? Yes.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah. So names on the list, and we're just like, nah, we'll cross his name off. He's good. We're good. We're good.
But it's a full quartet.
It is.
I was about to say, it's been almost like a full year since all four of us have been on at one time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Easily.
Shocking.
Wow. Look at that, huh? Must be a Halloween miracle.
Well, it's not Halloween yet.
It's a
Close
Halloween
enough.
Season miracle.
All right, I'll take that.
All right.
All right, so this has been a week of stuff happening. Who wants to kick it off? Who wants to start? What have you been watching? What have you been laying your eyes on? What media have you been perusing?
I'll start right now. I've been watching The Expanse. That's it. Timey-wimey. I'm back a couple years, but I've been watching The Expanse, and holy crap. Like, all the recommendations, 100% valid. And so I'm at season 3, episode 3 at this point.
War.
And it's interesting. And one of the fascinating things with this,
I
it's
just
like,
remembered where you are. Yeah.
what's her name? Christian is now on the Rashante. Is that how you say the ship? I always have trouble saying the ship.
That's okay.
Rosie. Let's call it the Rosie. And it's fascinating the way this is written. Again, it's classic Game of Thrones. Multiple characters, multiple stories going on at different places. And once the paths cross, it's epic. It's so much fun. And so you had asked me, Trevor, who's my favorite character?
Yes.
And I still, stay with my original pick. But, there's certain characters that are starting to kind of like start notching up. Like Amos, he's such a great character as just, the hardcore Punisher type. It's like, the
He's the
blunt
guy.
object. Yeah, he's a blunt object. He does what he has to do, trying to be a better guy. But he is what he is. Alex has leveled up in this season in a big way. And then the Gunny is the big one. Like, she's stepping up as that strong female character in like a proper strong female character way. And what's happening so far in this season, the first couple episodes, I'm completely blown away. And it's so neat to see the characters start coming together. And God, I want to know if Miller comes back. I don't want any spoilers. Don't tell me.
I'm not saying anything.
The camera. I'm not seeing anything. I'm assuming he comes back. He's got to be some sort of molecule dude, but
I am not saying anything because I'm not spoiling anything, because I want you to experience this whole show before I start, really diving into it. Because this was the kind of show that when I watched it, I was like, I need people to talk to about it to kind of decompress and, unpack some of the stuff I've seen, but I didn't have that group to do it with at the time. And I was just like, damn. So, I'm going to live vicariously through you.
And Mike, I'm in your boat as well. I did watch the first season when it first came out, lost track of it, then started to catch up, and then me and Adrian watched through the rest of the series and all that sort of thing. So unfortunately, Trevor didn't realize at the time how much this was, and I was in the same boat. I was like, oh my God, who can I talk to this about? So I like Trevor, can't wait till Mike, you get done this series, because this is, and it's also the fact that it's so surprising that something this good came out at a time when nothing like this was really out there. It's not Battlestar Galactica, it's not Star Wars, it's not Star Trek, it's its own separate thing of sci-fi, and it's so beautifully done.
And it flew under the radar because everyone at the time was talking about other shows that were like catching the headlines, and this one was just sailing along. And it didn't have great viewership. Like, it wasn't dominating the ratings.
Got canceled. It got canceled after the second season.
Sci-Fi dropped after the third season, and Amazon Prime was like, it was almost like one of the executives at Amazon Prime was like, No, damn it, we're buying the goddamn show. We're continuing the show until it's done.
My understanding with that is Jeff Bezos himself was a fan of the show, and he wanted it for Amazon Prime.
So yeah, it's funny enough that they're like, you get someone who's like, God damn it, no, we're not canceling it. We're gonna buy the damn thing and keep going.
Yeah. And I brought this up to a work sci-fi group chat thing, and the consensus was that the first 3 seasons were the best. The other stuff is still good, but it ends before the book ends, so you have to read the last 3 books to get the proper ending. I don't know, like Gavin, I think you're the only one that's read the books. Did you get all the way to the end?
I have not read the last 3 books, and that's
okay.
It's on my list. At some point, I'm just gonna go on Amazon and order the giant box set with like all of them, and it's gonna like the mailman's gonna be like super pissed at me.
But like, goddamn Gavin,
it's gonna sit somewhere
knock on the door,
on a shelf,
hand you the package, and then kick you in the nuts.
Punch in the face. I was gonna say punch in the face, but kicking the nuts is just
here
as
you
good.
go.
That's what the mailman always does.
Oh, got me in the rust.
Isn't that how they deliver the mail anyway?
So that's what I hear as far as the ending goes. So I'm prepping myself for that, to get to the end of this and read the books and all that. But yeah, Holden still stands as my favorite character so far. I've always liked those kind of Mickey Mouse characters where it's like, hey, I'm just trying to do the right thing. And then life, kind of kicks them in the nuts, and then they start going off in a tangent, and it's like Michael Douglas falling down, and fun ensues. I enjoy those kind of stories.
And as Christian would say, fucking Jim Holden.
Yeah. Oh, and that's one thing. I posted this to our group chat, but I think she would be the perfect Madam Web for Spider-Man. There was this scene in season 3 where she was in the medical bay at the Rosie and sitting down, and she's just kind of talking like this and doing all this fucking things. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh my God, that's Madam Web. It was like so perfect, from that old Spider-Man comic.
Even if it's just her voice, that voice is so, yeah.
But I mean, she even looks the part. Just give her the white hair.
For sure. Yeah.
And
sit her on the throne with the webs behind her, and
it would be amazing. So Sony, again, if you're listening, do that. Please just do that. Because I know they're doing a Madam Web, but I think they're doing the young version, right? Like the new, like the next gen Madam Web.
Yeah.
But and that's one thing Sony keeps doing is they keep jumping the gun in all these stories. Like they give us Venom before Venom's been attached to Spider-Man. He hasn't had the symbiote yet. They're giving us Madam Web before we see the original. They keep trying to jump the gun. They give us Morbius before
it's Morbin time.
Yeah.
Morbin time. Now, speaking of shows that were aired on one network, canceled, and picked up by someone else, I've been kind of using the time machine. I've been watching Lucifer.
Okay.
Very good.
Netflix.
Yeah. So
I haven't seen that.
I it was on Netflix, and I was like, I've heard a lot about it. I may as well. So I watched the first season. I've really enjoyed the first season,
which is a Fox production.
It was Fox at the time. I know they did 3 seasons, dropped it. Then Netflix said, no, picked it up for another 3 seasons. Much like The Expanse, got to 6 seasons, in total. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. The cast is really good. The character of Lucifer Morningstar, is slightly out of touchness of what's socially appropriate and what's not.
It's actually a pretty good police procedural too. They handle it really well. I mean, the Lucifer part is the best part of it, but the actual police procedural part of it is actually pretty good too.
I just like it when the daughter comes up and runs and hugs. He's like, oh, get away. He doesn't know how to deal with children.
Speaking of Tom Ellis, apparently he's in the running for Mr. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Reed Richards.
I can see it.
I can see it too. I kind of want John Krasinski, because just you'll get Emily Blunt as Invisible Girl. It's like a twofer, but that's fine. I watching one season, I'd be like, yeah, this guy could totally play Reed Richards. So yeah, that's one of the things I've been wasting my time with for the last.
Yeah, no, Lucifer is definitely worth the watch as well. I mean, it's not something you have to be loyal to and all that. And the supporting cast is actually really good too.
It is. It's nice storyline that
yeah.
Each episode has a story and then has links to other episodes, and then you have the storyline that weaves all the way through all the episodes right to the end of the season. So to me, that's good storytelling. That's storytelling with forethought of what's coming ahead.
Yeah, they definitely did their research ahead of time.
Well, it's not just research, but yeah, they had someone like the head writer, like, all right, we got to put story threads into this and into here, and we'll resolve it there. So
yeah, they definitely had a good showrunner to do that sort of thing. Because again, it's a DC comic, which is what it is originally, and it's a really great. It's a very, I wouldn't say loyal adaptation to the comic book, but it definitely is. Now, who is the original? Is it a Neil Gaiman?
I know it's Vertigo.
Comic?
So
it's definitely Vertigo, right. And I know he showed up in a whole bunch of different variants. Like there was because what's her name? Oh shoot, Game of Thrones big girl. Played the Lucifer and
Sandman,
created by Neil Gaiman, Sam Keith, and Mike.
Okay, so it wasn't Neil Gaiman. Yeah.
So and that's one thing I don't quite understand. And I mean, Warner Brothers does this. They're constantly doing this now, where they just keep picking different actors to play the same character within different properties. It's like this crazy Elseworlds kind of weird alternate reality stuff constantly going on. But I kind of wish they would just, stick to their guns and cast the character and sort of get that whole Marvel crossover thing going, that MCU of getting the same character to play the same.
Well, this is one of the issues that DC has that is making their movies kind of weak and some of their series kind of weak, is that they've got this, these successful series running on TV, but then they don't want to pull those characters and put them into the films. They're like, no, we wanted some Hollywood actor instead, and then you get a parade of actors doing that role, and and some of these people are not nice people in real life, and so.
Because even with the Constantine thing, like you had that Constantine TV show, you had the Constantine movie. They wanted Keanu Reeves wants to come back as Constantine, so you have two different actors you could pick. And I know rights get like it gets all legal and stuff, but like how cool it would be if one of those ended up in the Sandman series.
Exactly.
Like why not?
So
for sure, yeah.
So other stuff that came out this week. Shall we start with Monday?
I didn't watch Monday.
No. All right. Well, Monday was the newest episode of NBC's Quantum Leap. Where we
didn't watch that.
Went to the past, went to the Wild West.
We actually go to the Wild West.
It was
we
the Wild West.
We end up in 1857 or something like that.
Yeah.
Was it amazing? That's my first question.
No.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, there were some interesting things because they were dealing with the fallout of, he's well past his own timeline, his own lifeline, he's well past his own birthday. And at the same time, in the present, they're dealing with a congresswoman is, coming in to kind of do a little bit of surprise inspection as, where's Ben? Why is there a power surge? What are you guys doing? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, they're investigating the power surge because the project is not supposed to be running right now.
Yeah. So I guess, okay. I just feel we're spending too much time in the present day bullshit. At this point, we're 5 episodes in. Let that sit to the back burner. It should not be the forefront of what's going on. But this episode was just kind of a filler. It was a wishy-washy filler.
It seemed very clinical. It's okay. It's my biggest problem with the series is everything is shot on backlots. This is all backlot shot. Now, the reason it being is I did the research, and it's a lot of COVID shooting, so they couldn't go to locations to shoot things like the original Quantum Leap did. They would go to different parts of the country and shoot at like different universities and different hospitals and all that. But all of this is being done on like all backlots and all that. And it's redressing the same backlot every single time for the different era.
It kind of shows.
It does, unfortunately kind of shows. And this especially in this Wild West show, which should have looked a lot dustier and dirtier. It looks way too clean and pristine.
It honestly looks like 50s idealized Hollywood when they were shooting on the back lot. Like, everything was too clean.
It looks like Marty McFly in 1955 dressing in the cowboy outfit. That's what it felt like. I mean, it looked a little more like Back to the Future's Wild West, but it was way too clean and way too
clean. Nothing looked patched in any way. I mean, this town is on the brink of falling apart, and nothing was falling apart. Now, the only the only real big interesting thing was at the very end, just as he's about to leap out, this guy walks in and calls him by his name, not by the person whose persona he had taken on, but by Ben, and said, what are you doing here? What are you screwing around the timeline for? And the guy's like, wait, you're and then he leaps out. So we know there's other leapers in the timelines running around. So this is probably going to be a big conflict. This harkens way back to the original series when at one point when Sam came up against an evil leaper who was changing the timelines for their benefit and not for the benefit of others. And so we'll see how this goes.
I mean, my prediction is that's Sam himself.
I don't think it's Sam.
You don't think it's Sam?
Because
in the original series, the actual leapers didn't reveal themselves until they actually physically touched each other. So you didn't know who was the other leaper until they actually physically touch each other, and then it was revealed that, oh, this is the other leaper. So I mean, I don't know what other, unless it's what's her face, Al Calavici's daughter, who's already leapt, and just because of the timey-wimey sort of thing of the quantum leap, that she in the future leaps into this timeline and all that.
I don't think it's her. I think she's trying to help Ben against those people. I think it's a separate group who are, trying. It's almost like going back in time and finding out what stocks are going to be really good back then, purchasing them. So now in the present, you're filthy rich.
You mean like the Jean-Claude Van Damme time cop?
I'm not looking at that. Because I don't need to see anyone doing the splits on the counters while naked to avoid electricity, a taser on the floor.
Okay, Biff.
Yeah,
Biff. Yes, exactly, exactly. What are you looking at, butthead?
Yeah, that honestly should be like a verb. Oh, I'm biffing it, which means you're
nobody calls me chicken.
Yeah. So that came out on Monday. That was a kind of a low point for me. Wednesday we saw Andor showing up on Disney Plus, the newest.
I didn't see that. No,
you didn't need to. No. So remember the first 3 episodes are guy who does something bad happens, has to get out of town.
Yep.
Next 3 episodes, the heist.
Yeah.
And the countdown to
3 days later.
Heist.
2 days later. 1 day later. 0 days.
This is the aftermath of the heist where he goes back to the town.
Is it 1 day later?
It basically feels like goes back to his town because now he's going to rescue mom or the mom figure, and he's going to get her out of town because now he's 200,000 credits richer, and he's going to improve her life and find out turns out the Empire is not taking that theft very well. They're not just like, oh, just some pocket change, we'll be fine. They're cracking down, and cracking down hard. And I can understand, we need this episode to kind of explain some things and to see how the Empire reacts. But this 100%
that sounds like a YouTube video. Empire reacts.
Yeah, it honestly was. It was just like this episode was a whole lot of newspaper and the hamburger sort of thing. This was a lot of filler. This is basically going to be setting up whatever the next thing is. But
how many days later?
It doesn't. I don't think they say exactly. Now, the only thing that was really big was. So Cassian decides to go on vacation, and he gets, caught just watching this whole thing going by, and he gets to kind of interact with a KX unit who starts choking him out, like holding him against the wall, and he's choking, and then finally he finds out, for just being there and sweating on a hot planet, that they're like going to charge all these things, and he gets 6 years in prison for this. Now, since this only takes place 5 years before the events in Rogue One, obviously he does not spend the full 6 years in prison. I think
AC/DC. Gonna make a jail break.
Yeah, I think he's going to leave prison early. Just a prediction on my part. So yeah, if they had said he was given a 1.5 or 2 year sentence, I was like, oh, he's going to be out of the loop for 2 years. But no, he's getting out early.
He's totally going to be. Yeah, he's totally going to be put in jail with Sal Garal and his cronies. Once they break him out, he's going to go with them and all that, and that's how we're going to bring Forrest Whitaker into the story. There's no doubt that that's going to happen very soon because, well, in the friggin' trailer we've seen Forrest Whitaker in it, so he's got to show up soon.
We've only got 5 more episodes of this season anyway, so they're going to have to show him up at some point. So
but again, like I think like the previous episodes that have already aired, you're going to have to wait to see like these 3 episodes as one episode sort of thing for it to not feel like. And yes, Trevor, I will admit it was very slow. It was very low. Okay, yeah, let's go back to here and all that. I mean, it's kind of neat to see. I mean, it's nice to see that they didn't spend all that money building those sets and only to use them in those first 3 episodes. It's nice to like if you're going to spend the money, you might as well use the sets. Yeah.
Now it feels like because there's 12 episodes in the season, it's like they've chunked it into 4 separate movies, like 3 episodes each. I kind of wish they would just release 3 episodes at a time so you can see the whole narrative of that particular thing. That would be much easier. Because then you watch the first episode of 3 for this and you're like, oh, that doesn't. And then second episode, you're like, okay, this is trying to get us from 1 into 3. And then you've watched 3, like, all right, so that movie's over. What's next?
And like I said, when it originally started, like I watched those 3 episodes back to back to back while you watched them like a day in between and all that sort of thing. And they do flow right into each other. If you can hit that, like skip to the next episode, skip the intro and all that, and make your 1.5-hour movie, it's actually quite.
No, I'm going to say when they say, skip recap, okay, skip intro, okay, and then they still do the goddamn Andor logo after you skipped the fucking intro.
Yeah,
skip the damn title sequence.
Yeah, exactly. And that title sequence gets longer and longer in each episode because if you notice, the musical accompaniment with it grows every single episode.
Yeah, well, I on this last one, I'm like, okay, skip the recap. I know what happened. Skip intro, and then they start, and I want to find the guy who figured out the out point for the skip intro and punch him in the throat and kick him in the nuts at the same time because you're not doing your fucking job.
So listeners, if you know that guy, leave the name in the comments with the address so Trevor can go.
Yeah, so I can go make a visit, and we'll discuss intro and outro points when you're saying skip recap, skip intro.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a Disney Plus problem.
That's completely.
I gotta say, I'm just starting to think this might not be one of the better shows. Not selling it to me, man. Not selling it to me. I still haven't seen it, Troy.
Well, again,
Gavin's turning to the dark side.
He's
the happy guy of the group.
He is the happy guy of the group. Yes, he's the guy with all the views on TikTok.
The Transformers.
I thought this was supposed to be TikTok, TikTok.
Yeah.
But again,
and this is great. Why the fuck are they using this?
Yeah. Well, because that stuff takes place 5 years later.
But still, it's just,
the
storytelling's killing me. It's so, because you can tell, like, oh, what movie are they going to rip off now for the next 3 episodes?
Oh yeah, no, it's totally going to be Jailbreak. It's totally going to be.
It's going to be like the show Prison Break or Shawshank Redemption or some stupid shit like that. They're going to be like, oh, let's do a Prison Break movie.
We heard Trevor's #1 movie. Let's
The Great Escape. This is going to be the Great Escape.
It's totally going to be the Great Escape.
They're going to give him a ball. He's going to be in his cell. He's going to be bouncing
He's going to be the Steve McQueen
for a bit, and then he'll get on like one of the hover bikes and leap over the fence and wah wah wah.
Yeah.
Okay. Trevor called it.
If there's a blind forger, yes, it's definitely going to be the Great Escape.
Yeah. Well, if he's going to meet up with Saul Guerrero, they're either going to tunnel their way out or they're going to leap over the fence with a bike or some stupid shit like that.
He's like Charles Bronson in The Great Escape. He's digging tunnels.
He's digging tunnels. Yeah.
All right. What's next after that? What else is on television that we got
everything else I have is not television. So, well, it's sort of.
No, I'm
streaming. stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty much past that as well. You guys got anything, Gavin?
Gavin, you must have done
What
something.
do you got?
Well, I'm up to date on Lower Decks, which again, absolute love letter to Star Trek. So if you haven't seen it, you got to start watching it. It is, bar none, one of the funniest odes to Star Trek, yet entirely being Star Trek I've ever seen. The other thing I saw was a brand new anime series called Chainsaw Man.
I saw that. I didn't watch it, but I saw that the ad. I was like, ooh.
I haven't seen it. What's that?
Basically, the manga's been out for quite a while. Basically, it features the main character, this poor kid who basically his father had a massive debt to gangsters, and he dies, leaving behind the debt. So the gangsters basically essentially enslave him to pay off his father's debt. So the kid is living in poverty. Along the way, he befriends this little tiny dog demon that has a chainsaw sticking out of its head. And amazingly, it's one of the cutest dogs I think I've ever seen in anime history, except for the fact he's got a big chainsaw sticking out of his head. He's tasked with slaying demons in this world because for the gangsters, there's no risk for them, and when if he pulls through, they basically deduct all of the all of his expenses and maybe put a pittance towards his debt. So for him, it's a lose-lose situation. He ends up tackling more than he can take on, and ends up getting killed by a bunch of demons. And his little dog demon with the chainsaw ends up melding with him. And so he wakes up and discovers he's got a ripcord sticking out of his chest. And just by just instinct, he pulls the ripcord, and chainsaws come out of his hands. Chainsaw comes out of his head, and then slicing and dicing ensues. It is a very visceral show. When the chainsaw goes, I mean, it's a chainsaw in bodies. You can imagine the kind of gore that we're talking about here.
A little bit of blood splatter.
Just a tiny bit.
All right, okay, I expect that.
So, so not for kids. Don't watch it with the kids in the room, Mike. Seriously, it's no Naruto, but it's worth watching, but not with that kind of gore. So I'm 2 episodes in, and he's recruited by this lady who's running this demon hunting organization, and basically it just. He's getting paid, he's getting fed, he's able to bathe. Like, this is a lifestyle for the rich and famous for him.
But he still has the chainsaws though, right?
He basically just pulls the ripcord in his chest. The Chainsaw Man character himself, when he's in his demon form, is it's all CG, which is and looks fantastic, because I can't imagine trying to keep track of the chainsaws, like if it was all drawn by hand at that point. Like they're just visceral, like giant jagged teeth spinning. I think only CG could have done that justice. But worth a watch, especially if you're looking for something a little different than the typical anime fare.
Yeah, I said I saw the thing and I was like, ooh. But I'm gonna have to wait till after Halloween to catch up on stuff. But that's definitely on my list of ones I want to see, because it's just intriguing enough that you're like, ooh, I have to see. I just have to.
It's just enough that I want to see more.
Yeah. Given your recommendation, I'll be watching it.
I was just looking at the trailer as you were doing your commentary, and the animation looks phenomenal.
It does look really cool. Yeah,
so good. And what's the deal with the shark teeth? They look like, characters from the Naruto Hidden Mist. Like, all the characters seem to have shark teeth.
My guess here is that it's a holdover from their being affected by demons. Like anything that merges with a demon is considered I think they refer to it as a fiend. So they tend to have characteristics like sharp teeth or horns or something. So it's a really nice visual. like just to differentiate the characters from others. The sharp teeth kind of thing kind of took me a little bit out of it at first, but that was the character that made sense.
Yeah, well,
and Naruto, all the hit and miss have that.
It's a good way to visually say, am I dealing with a human or a non-human?
Yeah, and just looking at the trailer, looking at the violence and stuff that happens in some of the shots, like, geez, this isn't the trailer.
Yeah, it definitely,
like, whoa.
Yeah.
So
not quite Legend of the Overfiend, but it's still pretty hard.
Legend of the Overfiend, holy
North
shit.
Star? I don't know.
I looked through a few pages of the manga, and when they're depicting blood, sometimes it's like they'll just do like a black splatter on the page, just an ink stain going across somewhere. Like, I opened one page and it's almost entirely black. I was like, oh my!
I think they dipped this page in the inkwell.
I guess that happened. Okay, next page.
So apparently this first season or whatever, there's a total of 12 episodes. And for anyone out there that's interested, it's currently airing weekly on Crunchyroll. So so there's 12 episodes in this first outing, I guess, depending on the outlook. Now, is it dubbed or is it subtitled?
The one that I saw was subbed. I'm not sure what the Crunchyroll version is. I have seen a few Crunchyroll stuff that sometimes they're dubbed, sometimes they're subbed.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Yeah, okay.
So for people in the US, if you're listening, it's on Hulu, both the sub and the original dubbed or undubbed version. So subbed and dubbed on Hulu. I believe they only have 2 episodes so far.
I believe those are only the 2 episodes. It only started airing a week ago on the 12th, I believe, is the first episode. Yeah.
So yeah, you.
I agree. The chainsaw dog looks pretty cute.
Yeah, pretty cute dog with a little chainsaw coming out of its head.
Well, from the manga, the actual dog's kind of cute too. So it's just a tiny little chainsaw coming out of its head.
Just a little one. It's like
it's such a cute chainsaw
to lop little limbs off small trees.
And it's also another thing that's kind of cool because, like, I've seen for the past little while cosplayers doing Chainsaw Man. And I didn't know what it was until, like, I did some research. Like, I saw a couple of people showing up. I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, it's a manga. And then it's like, oh, it's becoming an anime. And I'm like, all right then, whatever. But yeah, no, this looks spectacular. I'm probably I'm going to look into viewing it as well. So who knows? Next week's Halloween episode, we might have a whole entire review of Chainsaw Man, the first 3 episodes.
We'll all be holding chainsaws. It'll be great.
Yeah. I got a little electrical one I just picked up, so I can just like
nice
run it at the camera.
I got a dog.
I got a dog too, but I'm not going to tie that chainsaw to her head. Yeah. So other stuff. So my wife and I have been watching a series on Hulu, at least down here in the States, Reservation Dogs. And this is a show by Taika Waititi. It follows the lives of 4 indigenous teenagers in rural Oklahoma who are living on a reservation, who spend their days, committing crimes and fighting crimes. And they're dealing with the death of their friend Daniel. It used to be 5 of them, but now it's only down to 4. And this is like 1 year later after he has passed away. And that's basically most of what season 1 is. Season 2, they're still experiencing some grief over the loss of their friend. But now their foursome has kind of been torn apart because of some of the actions of some of the members. Excuse me. And now they're, just trying to figure out as they're growing up, because they're finishing high school and those sorts of responsibilities are rolling in. What's really good is all of the actors are indigenous people. And they deal with heavy issues and they don't shy away from them. But there's also some levity to it. It's just, to me, it's a really fun show to watch. So
is it better than Love and Thunder? I have to ask this question. Better than Love and Thunder?
Yes, this is so well written, but it's also extremely well acted. Like you feel the pain these people are going through, like losing their friend. And it wasn't a case of like, drunk driver. It was, the boy Daniel hung himself. And it's just, it's tough. And I mean, they even have a thing, if you or anyone is, dealing with depression or other things, here's like suicide hotline. Like they are taking this very seriously. But it's just, it's just a great show. So yeah, I give it like 2 thumbs up. It's a fun thing to watch.
That's the most thumbs you can give anything.
I can give more thumbs. I can just chop people's hands off, arrange their hand in the thumb. Here's a third.
Yeah, I kind of figure you'd go that way.
Yeah, you got the chainsaw. I know. Okay.
I do. And I got an axe and a pickaxe.
Gavin. Go. Get in there.
I watched it a while back. Not all of it, but we kind of got sidetracked with other stuff to watch. But I'm a big fan of the police officer.
Mm-hmm.
His detective skills were quite something.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah. So
I don't know what that means.
No, neither do I. So
you have to watch. You're just going to have to watch.
Yeah. Now, what does it air on again? Sorry.
Down here it's on Hulu and FX.
Disney Plus here.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, it is on Disney Plus. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, right, because it would have been on FX here. I think it was originally FX, and then yes. Okay, gotcha.
Moving right along.
Yes.
So a friend of mine got a chance to get an early edition of the video game Gotham Knights, and I was able to play for about an hour. He has already finished the game. Like, he has played right through the game and finished it. And I can already tell you his impression is he wishes he had the time back. So I liked the Arkham Asylum and Arkham Batman games that came out because it was pretty revolutionary, like the flowing combat style and stuff like that. Unfortunately, WB Games Montreal, to say they fumbled the ball would be kind. It's the idea is it's a open world of Gotham City. You have 4 characters to choose from. Batman has just died at the hands of Ra's al Ghul. Well, Batman self-sacrificed fighting Ra's al Ghul. He sealed themselves in the Batcave and then blew it up. And so you have Tim Drake Batman, Nightwing, Jason Todd is the Red Hood, and Barbara Gordon is Batgirl. And you're operating out of a side base that Batman had, the Belfry, to try to, it was kind of like a base he had used for a while and then kind of shut down. So it's full of older equipment you have to upgrade and whatnot. And you got Alfred there kind of helping out, but Bruce Wayne's dead. Wayne Enterprises is kind of reeling, trying to figure out their role in the world. And so as one of these 4 characters, you get to, canvas Gotham City and solve crimes and figure out what's going on. And it's like the Court of Owls and the League of Shadows and yada, yada, yada. Now you can upgrade your equipment, you can upgrade your uniforms, you can upgrade your fighting styles and all this other stuff. The problem with the game is it's all been done before. There's really nothing new and innovative about the game. Nothing at all. And if anything, this gets so goddamn repetitive. Like Grand Theft Auto, could be repetitive, but I'm talking like the first Grand Theft Auto, like GTA 3. That could get repetitive. But we're many years later. They could have made this a much more fluid style, so you're not doing the exact same mission again and again and again. Escort this guy, retrieve this, retrieve that, fight this gang, fight that gang, get here, get that. It's just, it's extremely repetitive. And it's lacking, like as I said, the Gotham or the Batman Arkham games, you had that free flow combat style where you're fighting this guy and immediately the next move bolts you across the room to hit this guy, and so it's a very free flowing style when you're fighting groups. This doesn't quite have the same feel as this. It's lacking. It really is. Like there's a very big disjoin when you disengage from opponent 1 to engage opponent 2, and then sometimes you're locked in a combo and you just take the hit from opponent 2 because you can't break the combo to get out of the way. Well,
that was the entire point of the system that Arkham Asylum and Arkham City used.
Exactly.
That it was so fluid that you're in the middle of a spin kick and you could like hop over the guy's foot and then like deck him.
So this one kind of lacks that. Now, what for me, what kills this is, again, story. So Batman's fighting Ra's al Ghul. Batman blows up the Batcave, sacrificing himself. They find his body. They have the big funeral. Talia shows up and actually cremates Ra's al Ghul, so he ain't coming back.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So the whole thing is, so the League of Owls is the Court of Owls. They're using what they find eventually is a Lazarus pit, and they're using some of that to create like these zombie super soldiers. The League of Shadows wants to kind of cleanse Gotham, and the Court of Owls.
They always want to cleanse Gotham.
They always do. Yeah. So they're there to cleanse Gotham, and you're tasked with defeating the Court of Owls before the League of Shadows moves in, and because they're going to kill everybody. They don't care. That's how they cleanse. Everyone's guilty.
Cleanse Gotham. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. So eventually, after you go through a couple of villains, like Penguin and Harley and whatnot, you get to the end, and Talia has stolen Bruce Wayne's body and chucked his ass into the Lazarus pit under Gotham. Of course she did. Brings him back, brainwashes, make him the new League of Shadows head. He's able to get enough of his memory back. And what do you think Batman would do?
He'd say, "I'm Batman."
No, but do you think he would say, "Oh, okay, I'll run this team, but maybe I should take a sabbatical and get my head back on straight. You four protect Gotham until I can come back." That would be the obvious thing. No, I'm going to jump on the Batwing and sacrifice myself again. That way, there's no way for it's just like, what? Why is he killing himself again? So it didn't work the first time, Bruce.
So he started the game killing himself,
and he ends the game killing himself.
And it kind of sounds like he just doesn't want to be in the game.
Yeah, it's to so when the court arrives at the Lazarus pit, Bruce is like, what could I do? We could use explosives. I'll drive the Batwing into the Lazarus pit and detonate it. That sounds like these things have fucking remote control, Bruce. You put them in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I just really don't want to be in this game, guys.
Yeah. So it just it was just, so my friend showed me the ending because at that point he'd already beaten the game. So I tried it for a little bit, like about using his save game from about midway through the game, trying out the combat. So it was, as I said, felt very disjointed. And like each character has their own special moves. Like Tim Drake can access the watchtower, so he can teleport himself around the battlefield. You just use a button press, and he like teleports himself up and teleports himself down to another spot.
The Justice League watchtower. Right. I'm like, wait, what? How is it? So you're that far into the lore of Batman that he's part of the Justice League?
Yeah. And then you're like, well, why the fuck didn't Superman show up? Anyway, this game, so afterwards when I came home, I looked it up, to see like the game rankings and stuff, and this game has not been faring well. The reception of this game has not been glowing. A lot of the scores are anywhere between like 4 and 7 out of 10. That's not a good sign. It's just very repetitive. Like some people, I tried the co-op. The co-op's okay, but you share a screen space, so you can't separate too far before the game's like, it's trying to keep both people on the screen at the same time, and it's just like, oh my god.
Oh,
didn't every single Lego game ever figure that part out?
They did, yeah.
The one did, where it went split screen and they could splinter in different directions. But that was amazing.
But the thing is you need a screen big enough. Like you need like an 80-inch TV, because it's just like if you do it on a small like 40-inch TV, you're dealing with a truncated. It's just it was horrible. It really was. It was fucking horrible. You have limited camera control, if any, in most cases. So a lot of the times you're like, oh, who the hell's hitting me? Because the guy's behind me. Now I got to spin around so the camera can spin around, and I can. Yeah, this is a game definitely a hard pass. Hard fucking pass.
What's really not helping right now is for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and even the Xbox Series S, they're saying that it's capped at 30 frames per second.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Almost every new release now is minimum 60 frames per second on next gen consoles.
What problem is this game feels like it came out maybe a year to 18 months too soon. There's sections that feel unfinished. And it looks like they just rushed it to try to get it out. And I think that's probably part of the reason why they capped it at 30s, because there was probably a technical issue they hadn't overcome yet and figured, fuck it, it's going out the door.
Could have been the fact that they had to, like, we need to release it at this date, and they were just behind and decided, okay, this is what we're going to do.
Could be.
Because 30 frames is
a minimum
horrendous.
Video. Yeah, and it showed like on his TV, you could tell at times when you were like, wow, that it's not choppy, but it ain't smooth.
Wow.
Actually, a fun comparison I saw a couple of days ago was there's a YouTube series called Digital Foundry, and they do comparisons, like performance comparisons of various games. So they'll show it on the Series X, they'll show it on the PS5, they'll show it on PC. They'll show you the frames per second, and like just how much it varies per console or what have you. And they were doing a comparison of PS5, Xbox Series X, and Xbox Series S. And Xbox Series S, which is considered the less powerful hardware, was maintaining a solid 29.9 frames per second. PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, where we're averaging anywhere from 25 to 27 frames per second for the most part.
Yeah.
The lesser powered console is doing better.
No, I think part of the problem why locking it at 30 the way they did is there's no motion blur. If they had added motion blur to, like, when you're kicking or punching, you would have been able to overlook it. But every frame is crisp, and at 30 frames per second, it's like watching like live sports when you have the motion blur taken off your TV. It looks like cheap video. And for this kind of game, 30 frames per second just doesn't cut it. It if anything, it gets kind of choppy, because it's like the character's leg goes from floor and it's at the guy's head the very like 1/30th of a second later, and you're like, you don't see any arc of where his leg was getting there. Just like it's almost like it magic, just pop, and you're like, what the fuck? So yeah, they dropped the ball on this one.
That kind of sucks, because a lot of the character design actually looked kind of neat.
They pulled a lot from the comics.
Looked fantastic.
They pulled a lot from the comics. Yeah, the backgrounds, it's expansive. They made Gotham. Now they use some of the in-game loading tricks. They're like, ooh, this area is narrow, I will slowly sidestep to this area, and then that's where the game's kind of like loading up the next area and dumping the last area. They haven't gotten around those, and it's nowadays it's very obvious when they're doing that sort of shit.
Right.
And the vehicles are kind of cool. Like the Bat Cycle, when you're not using it, hides itself. It basically goes invisible. So it's there, but people aren't going to say, hey, look, Bat Cycle's there. Where the fuck's the Bat person? So, yeah.
Well, that does kind of suck, because like I said, it looks like a fantastic looking movie.
The still frames look great. Really cool. In motion, not so great.
Not so much. That's most unfortunate. But then again, my favorite Batman game is Arkham Asylum. I mean, you can't really get any better than that for a Batman. I mean,
mine's
for a single
Batman
player.
Lego Villains. That's still my favorite.
No, you know what? I always keep forgetting about the Lego games. The Lego games are always superior on their own level because of just their creativity and ingenuity of being able to not only pull off a serious sort of feel of the IP that they're using, but to also give it that feel of a Lego story too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
My boys love those ones. They're some of the favorite ones.
It's the little things like. I ended up getting Lego Dimensions for Amanda a couple of years, well, I guess it's now a few years ago, and of course, you had Batman, you had Wildstar or whatever her name was, basically all as your initial characters, and then you go and buy the extra packs. Mm-hmm. One of the coolest little things is Amanda buys the Wonder Woman pack, so she takes the character, puts it on the Dimensions platform. And hey, look, it's Wonder Woman in the game. Okay, now what's going to happen? oh, she's jumping up and she's flying. And then all of a sudden it starts going into the Wonder Woman theme song from the Linda Carter days. I'm like,
nice.
Holy shit. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the little things that make it so enjoyable.
Lego DC Supervillains, to me, is by far one of the best games. I mean, the voice cast alone, they got everybody. And the game is just so much fun to play. There's a very strong story through it, but it's just hilarious because you have to play the game multiple times as multiple characters just because the interactions between characters. To me, it's such a perfect game. So, yeah.
But unfortunately, Gotham Knights, not so much.
Not so good. I mean, it had premise. Now, without a lie, back in 2002, I actually wrote a treatment for a 4-player Batman game. Basically, Gotham Knights, you just swap out Red Hood for Batman himself and solving crimes throughout the city. But it had a fluid story system that every time you played it, you had a different set of villains you were facing. So your end boss could be Killer Croc, could be Clayface, could be, the Joker. And the series of sub-bosses you would get through to get to that final boss, it changed each time. Like I had the full rogues gallery, and it would just randomly pick the characters to be sub-bosses and the main boss, and then you would go from there. So every time you played, it was a different game. But at the time, the studio I was working for, DC was very hesitant to give them the license for Batman. And then they ended up just saying, you know what, we don't have time to play the licensing game. Screw it, we'll just go do something else. So, yeah. And it was actually going to use a version of the Rockstar engine. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they had entered negotiations to license the Rockstar engine. So, yeah. But, oh well, shit happens. And that leads us to the end of the week. So on Friday, after Taekwondo class and stuff like that, I went to go see Black Adam.
Was it the best movie ever?
Pause speaks in volumes.
Oh look, there's a spider hanging from my ceiling. What was your question, Mike?
Was it the best movie ever?
Oh look, there's that spider again. He's crawling along. Oh, what was your question, Mike? What would you say something?
I think you want to see Spider-Man No Way Home.
Maybe. I've seen it a couple times. Black Adam is one of my favorite anti-heroes from DC.
As have been noted several times previously in episodes, yes.
Okay, question. Was he a charlatan character before DC? Where did he jump in? No, what was it? Wiz Comics or whatever? What was the original Captain Marvel?
Was
it Wiz Comics? Shoot, I should know this.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, keep monologuing.
Totally.
Hold on. Fawcett Comics.
Fawcett. There you go.
It took me a while to finally just get the head going. Yeah, he started in Fawcett Comics.
Okay, Fawcett as in like tap?
No, like Farrah Fawcett.
Oh, Fawcett. Okay.
Yes.
Not Fawcett, but Fawcett. I see.
Fawcett.
So I had the wrong Fawcett.
Yes. He actually showed up.
Troy, you're using the wrong Fawcett.
In the very first episode of Captain Marvel, Marvel Family, issue number 1 has Black Adam, or Tet Adam at the time, which is a long time ago. But the thing is they have slowly evolved this character. Like one of the big things was, he was the Egyptian predecessor of Captain Marvel, or Shazam, however you want to put it. But at one point, the Wizards threw him across the universe because he was too powerful to contain. So they figured if they threw him across the universe, he was out of sight, out of mind. That was 5,000 years ago. They threw him across the universe. Since then, he has simply been flying back towards Earth the whole goddamn time. Now he has, during this flight from across the universe for 5,000 years, he would
Traffic
run across.
was horrendous.
Yeah, he would just run across civilizations.
Like the DVP, damn it.
Yeah, some of the civilizations were like, he was like a comet that went across their solar system. And they would have like a religion. Other times, like an armada of ships would show up and he would just blow right through them and like kill entire civilizations because he was just getting back to Earth. So when he finally arrives, it's the modern day. He's been flying in space for 5,000 years and not at a slow speed. So it gives you an idea of the power level of this guy. Also ruthless, absolutely fucking ruthless. So they've since revised his origin a couple of times along the way.
As they do.
As they constantly fucking do.
Multiverse man.
Yes. But he's still one of the most powerful villains in the DC universe. Can go toe-to-toe with Superman and win. Because his power is magic based and magic is one of the weaknesses of Superman. It's like, trying to put out a fire with a whole bunch of oil in your hands. It's probably not going to work as well. So when they announced this movie, I was like, ooh, and the fact that, Dwayne Johnson has really wanted to be this character for quite a while, like 15 plus years he's been lobbying for this character. And so I sat down in the seat on Friday thinking, all right, for someone who has that much love for the character, this is going to be a pretty good story.
Thank you for your service, Trevor.
Yeah, I was disappointed. Holy shit, disappointment. There were some really awesome visuals, and there were some not so awesome visuals. But yeah, the story was just like, hey, we've got a 3-hour story. Let's just rip pages out of the script to cut it down to like 2 hours. We're good. That's what it felt like. It just
what does this final clock in at?
Just over 2 hours.
Just over 2 hours.
Just just over 2 hours. It just feels like half the time you're like, why am I missing something here? Like, is this one of the sections where they ripped out some pages? Some of the characters we have, Hawkman is one of the main characters who is a giant dick. He really is. He's like,
really?
They may as well have just a giant CG penis. We've got
what's that boy's character?
yeah. We've got Pierce Brosnan is Dr. Fate, which was pretty good. But we also have
thankfully Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate was pretty good.
Yeah, I was hoping he'd pull that off.
Then there was like Cyclone and Atom Smasher, but there were questions you have right off the bat, like when Amanda Waller orders that the Justice Society of America go apprehend him, and you're thinking, why? This would be like the Canadian government ordering that some guy in Australia go get him. He has no fucking bearing on what you do, and you have no jurisdiction in where going there. So why? Well, it's because he's too powerful. That's
because reasons.
Exactly. It's like, bitch, this is none of your concern. So when they get their asses handed to them by him, and she gets all pissy, and you're thinking, again, you have your narrow scope of what you have to. If he's on U.S. soil, yes, absolutely, he's your problem. He's a different fucking country, absolutely halfway around the world. Not your concern. Who put you in charge of all superheroes, like all super entities? And then
is it the same Amanda Waller from?
Yeah, it's
Peacemaker and Suicide Squad.
It's Viola Davis, who again she plays the role really well. But again, the whole time in terms of writing, you're like, it's not like he's operating on U.S. soil. Why does she have the oversight to demand that a super entity who has shown up, who suddenly she has all this information about, by the way, which makes no sense. Like, where did she get his, he's been imprisoned for 5,000 years. How the hell did you know? Did someone hand you an advance copy of the script so you could read up on it?
Like, reading Egyptian hieroglyphs.
She read Bruce Wayne's files on him.
Must have. So it just like, what the now at the end of the movie, I'm sitting there because I know there's the mid-credit scene because that's all they've been talking about for the last week or so. And I see people get up and walk out, and I'm thinking, Where have you
learned nothing?
Where have you been since 2006? When all superhero movies have a mid-credit scene? Why the hell is your ass leaving the seat?
At the very least, a single.
Yeah, and sure enough, a mid-credit scene, which was kind of cool. But again, reinforced the whole, Waller's really fucking overstepping here. Like, it doesn't make sense how or why she's getting the oversight to do this. Because she sends a drone and says, well, you didn't like it in my prison, so consider Kondak your whole prison. I'm thinking, where's this perceived authority stemming from that you can order people that, oh no, since you don't want to be imprisoned in my prison, I'm going to make this whole area your prison. You can't leave. And he even says, who the hell are you going to get to stop me? There's no one on this planet who can stop me. And of course, I'm going to spoil it right now. She's like, well, I know people who aren't from this planet. And he's like, send them all. Which was nice because, yeah, Black Adam is supposed to have a whole lot of confidence in himself. And sure enough, he blows up the drone that had the hologram. And through the smoke, you see someone drift down. And Henry Cavill, as Superman, steps up and says, we need to have a talk. Ends there. That's fine.
Was he wearing his underwear on the outside? That's my big question.
He was wearing the suit he wore in Man of Steel.
Damn it! If he was wearing his red Speedos, I would have been so happy.
But everything's ruined forever.
Yes, it's all ruined forever. Well, he's just learned to put his underwear on the inside and then put his pants on. That's all it is.
No, it's a strongman suit. Anybody who doesn't understand that is doing it wrong.
But honestly, that was the best part of the movie. That's how.
Even though he wore his underwear wrong.
It just. This was exactly this. It's like they DC pulled a commando raid at Marvel and grabbed a superhero script and ran back and just threw it into the Word and just did like a search of change hero's name to Black Adam, change villain's name to what's his name, Sabak, whatever, and then just went from there. Because guys, what's the problem with most Marvel intro movies? Come on,
dupe villain.
Exactly. Villain has the exact same fucking power set as the hero. And you're just like, I mean, the second this guy shows up, you're just like,
oh, right. Yes. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
He's going to have the same power set, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, slight variation, but it's exactly the same fucking power set. And you're just like, oh, Christ. Yeah. So I was just like, really? Does no one have an original fucking idea for the first villain that the hero of the story can face that doesn't have the exact same power set?
Especially when it makes it so much more interesting.
It does.
If it's Iron Man going against something that's not mech armor.
Yeah.
If he has to go up against Fin Fang Foom, it's like, whoa.
Exactly. Like, something that's
got to go against a weird dragon or Mandarin, magic rings. Yeah, what's tech armor going to do against magic rings? I want to see that. I still haven't.
Yeah, we still haven't. We probably never will.
In my mind, I've seen it many times.
Now, one of the side things was kind of interesting. So they had the Shazam trailer, Fury of the Gods, Shazam 2.
Yeah.
So they played the long trailer for that. That was kind of fun. In the movie, at one point, when the seven wizards decide to, because they can't strip Black Adam or Tet Adam of his power, he has to willingly give it up. So he has to say Shazam and go back to mortal, and then they can do whatever. But he's refusing to give up the power, so they're trying to imprison him so that to keep him contained. This is why in the Shazam movie there's only the one wizard left, because Tet Adam killed the other wizards as they were trying to contain him. That's why there's only the one wizard in Shazam, because all the other ones are dead. That's why all those seats are empty, because he killed the people who were sitting in them. It wasn't old age. It was Black Adam that killed him.
Oh, you mean at the beginning of the Shazam movie itself?
Yeah, the beginning of the Shazam movie, when
when
he's the old wizard there, because he was actually in the film. What's his name? I can never remember his name.
He was the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Jimon Hansu, who was the wizard in the Shazam movie.
Yes,
he's in this movie, a little bit younger version, but he has all his wizard friends, and they're trying to contain Black Adam by imprisoning him in the stone sort of thing, and he lashes out and kills all but the one. which is why in Shazam it's just the one wizard because
there's one left. Okay,
because it's Black Adam that killed him. So
I thought you were talking about this happens in the trailer for the Shazam.
No,
gods.
No,
but I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense.
Whoa, what a trailer!
Yeah. So yeah, it's to me, because I've been such a fan of the Black Adam character, they kind of fucked around with too many things. And Dwayne Johnson, I mean, initially it starts out like the man out of water. You know, he's a man thrust 5,000 years into the future for him. So he's kind of unsure how things work. But also he's a force of nature. Like buildings and cars and bullets really mean nothing to him. I mean, at one point people are shooting at him and he's like poor him like weak wizards, because to him it's wizardry with them firing guns, because he's catching the bullets and looking at them like, what the hell's this? But it carries on too long, too far. And this is not, if this is supposed to be the start of DC's new universe, their big step forward because they canceled Batgirl, this is a misstep. Like, it's kind of like a stutter step. So yeah, which was funny though, is there was absolutely no mention of the upcoming Flash movie. None. Like, you'd think they'd throw a trailer. Nothing. Not a peep. So
now, how did Meredith enjoy it?
I went with some guy
oh
friends.
sorry, I apologize.
Yeah.
How did your companions enjoy it? Were they as big of like
no, they're not as big of Black Adam fans, so they had some questions
and it was Meredith glad she didn't see it.
Probably.
Yeah.
She falls asleep during superhero movies.
Okay.
Yeah, they had some questions about some of the characters and stuff like that. I mean, visually there was some, as I said, there were some really nice set pieces.
Okay.
But there was also a lot of lulls in terms of like just got a nice high peak and then plah, and
lulls,
just
like
low.
LOL lulls, like lol.
No, like LOL.
Like lol.
Yeah. Not that lol, the other lol.
Yeah. So
you're getting your lulls mixed up, Mike.
Yeah.
Lol.
Yeah, and it's like, well, at one point he gives up for no apparent reason, and Hawkman's he's just a I mean, as it Hawkman acts like Amanda Waller's hired gun for the whole thing. Just, I'm going to fight him. I'm going to fight. It's like, we've already established you can't fight him. You cannot beat Black Adam. He's too fast. B, he's too strong. C, nothing you have can hurt him.
It sounds like my wife's bird.
Yeah, it's like, why do you insist on this?
I'm a raptor. It's like, dude, settle down. Bucky.
Yeah. It was just like, the first time they had their first tussle, and everyone else is like, wow, he's really powerful. And Hawkman gets his ass handed to him, and you're thinking, wow, okay, you learned your lesson. Well, I'm gonna fight him again. What? Yeah, so that's why, like, some of these characterizations of some of these characters, you're just like, this makes no fucking sense.
So I take it this being a humorless Dwayne Johnson performance, or
more like unintentional humor, more of like, man out of time humor.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So, but not your snarky sort of like
no. Well, at one point,
sort of Dwayne Johnson.
Does he ever raise the eyebrow?
No, he doesn't raise the eyebrow. But at one point,
what?
Wow.
Dr. Fate says something to him. It's like, and that's sarcasm. And then later, Black Adam's like torturing these two guys and throws them away, just drops them, and Hawkman has to save them both. And swoops in. Hawkman swoops in after saving both and drops them. And he's like, "You could have killed them. We need the information." I was like, "I got the information, and they look alive to me." And then cuts to Dr. Fate, and he turns like, "That's sarcasm," because he's like trying to teach him sarcasm. That's the unintentional stuff. So yeah,
you're talking like a Terminator 2 sort of learning way.
Yeah.
Dealing with
he's got this little kid that he's like, your costume's all black, and we shouldn't call you Ted Adam. He's like, you need a catchphrase like the man in black sent you, and so he's trying to use it at one point, but he's killing these guys faster than he can say tell them the man in black sent you. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think about that, Gavin?
It's kind of cemented my my thought that, well, I'm not going to pay to see this one.
Wait for it to come out on HBO or something,
or Blockbuster Video. I'll wait for that.
Wait for Blockbuster. Two for one night. With
Henry Cavill back as Superman, What do you think there's a possibility of that scene in the comics where Shazam, after basically making a bunch of mistakes and people getting killed, Superman finds him crying on a mountaintop, a grown man, Shazam, crying, and Superman's going, what is wrong with you? And he transforms back into Billy, and then Superman goes, you were a kid? And then he flies in and talks to the wizard and goes, we need to talk.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Honestly, I would love to see that.
I mean, with them announcing Man of Steel 2, I mean, if you have Black Adam and Zachary Levi as Shazam, I don't know if you guys have seen the animated Black Adam versus Superman and Shazam.
Yes, I have. Yeah,
an amazing goddamn fight when you have people at that level of power, and also at Black Adam's level of I don't give a fuck. You know, threw you through a building and killed 30 people. Oh well, they shouldn't have been there. Like, that's the kind of attitude of an anti-hero. He's like, yeah, I'll get the job. And then at one point, there's a whole thing of heroes don't kill, and he gets right into Hawkman's face. He's like, yeah, but I do. And you're like, well, I guess he's not a hero then. At least by Hawkman's definition of good and evil, black and white. There's no gray. Well, there's a hell of a lot of gray in Black Adam. So yeah.
Speaking of which, Trevor,
yes,
do you think that with now have like Superman back in the DC EU and Shazam coming out, that you could lead into a Black Adam versus Shazam versus Superman sort of story?
Absolutely. I mean, this is where,
yeah,
Shazam 2 is already pretty much locked and ready to come out, sort of thing. It's going to be him against a couple of old gods. But that could definitely segue into Black Adam versus Shazam, because their powers pretty much stem from the same source in terms of the old wizard. And having Superman in the mix would just,
Yeah, because that animated feature was, first of all, beautifully animated to begin with, because it's the era of DC animation. They know how to do an animated feature. If they could bring that into a live action, which they probably won't be able to.
Yeah. Now, there was a fun cameo other than Henry Cavill. So Adam Smash, is what's his name? Al, who is the nephew of the original Adam Smasher, Al Pratt. So he FaceTimes him, and it's Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler is the original Al Pratt, and he goes on to say, he's like, how's the suit? Oh, the suit's great. He's like, well, don't mess it up. It's vintage.
Nice.
He's more concerned about the suit getting messed up than his.
All right.
But the fact that it's Henry Winkler, it was like, that's
Henry
just a
Winkler
great
is in the
cameo.
DC universe. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Yeah.
That would have been something in the theater to have been at.
Yeah, I'm sitting there like, that's Henry Winkler. And he's like, don't damage the suit. It's vintage.
Nice. Especially in his nowadays sort of, I can totally see him doing that, being the whole curmudgeon sort of.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So, yeah, my review of Black Adam is wait for video. Like, wait for it to come out on a streaming service. Yeah, there's some visuals that would look great on a big screen, but it's not necessary. Sadly,
TVs are big enough nowadays, right?
Yeah, I mean, now it's the next thing is Wakanda, Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever, which they did a trailer for.
So, again, along with this time of the year, there is the time to release, the scary movies, the spooky movies, the thrillers, the chillers, the box office killers. Yeah,
also,
exactly.
Coincides with some pretty scary game trailers. Silent Hill 2, the remake, Callisto Protocol, Dead Space, the remake.
Oh, they're doing a remake of Dead Space.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, have you all played the original Dead Space?
I did.
Or as Amanda likes to call it, the game that makes me shriek in the game room.
I just like the fact they had the thing where you could turn the gun sideways for lopping off limbs and then shoot vertically, shoot horizontally.
I haven't played the game that makes you shriek, Gavin.
It is one of the best survival horror games I've played. in a very long time, and that this is actually including the Resident Evil games, because Resident Evil games, they just more or less just threw shit at the wall and basically just had you roll with it. It's like, oh, okay, here we are, zombies, and you've killed all the zombies, and now, oh yeah, here's an underwater shark. It's slightly infected, so it's kind of a zombie shark, but it's also a bioweapon.
Oh, and zombie dogs.
I like how you iterate that it has to be an underwater shark.
Yes, as opposed to those flying sharks.
Those land sharks.
Goddamn land sharks.
Well, they had one in the lab.
Damn, man, tornado sharks.
That was waist deep in water.
Land shark. No, land man, I'm a dolphin.
No, I'm a dolphin. Oh, well, in that case. Saturday Night Live.
So I did a replay of the original Dead Space just around when COVID hit, and so didn't have a lot to do. But hey, look, I've been meaning to play it because it's backwards compatible on Xbox One. Why not? Let's do this. And so the upgrades to 1080p or 4K resolution, pretty freaking amazing. Even really? Still held up even now.
Yeah, but it's not a game you play wearing headphones. Don't wear headphones playing that game because you will shit your pants.
Yeah.
Because there's like random sounds like way off in the distance, especially if you've got good headphones. There's like a sound over here, and you're just like, I'm not turning my head. I'm not turning. You hear it again, and you turn, and you're like, oh, okay, there's nothing. You turn back to the screen, and suddenly there's something right there. You're like, yeah.
Well, it's like every time you walk past a vent in this game, it's like, okay, something's going to come out of that. Something's going to come out of that. I'm walking past it. I'm looking at it. Nothing came out of it.
Yeah, you get your gun aimed the whole time.
I'll start turning this way.
Sidestepping that vent. And you're like, oh, okay. And in front of you. And you're like, just like, son of a... And yeah, if you're wearing headphones, it's a lot of shrieking and later having to do some cleanup. Maybe burn your chair.
So Dead Space is basically a survival horror in space. You basically play Isaac Clarke, who's an engineer.
He's way too attached to his girlfriend.
Engineer. That's super attached. But basically, because you're the engineer, you got to go and restart the combobulator engine, or set the shields on anti-vibrator, whatever. Like you were the guy who had to do all of this, and all you had was basically some very basic mechanical tools, and so you always seem to get cut off from your friends just as things start screeching and slithering out of the vents, and essentially you start fighting these things called necromorphs, which are basically animated corpses, and unlike zombies, which just kind of look like your standard, it's arms, legs, claws and teeth, that makes sense. No. This thing sprouts giant mandibles out of the chest, the rib cage. This one is now sprouting like sharp, spiky things out of the shins or something.
So you're fighting the Thing from John Carpenter's The Thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
But on a multiple.
But the thing is, the guns you have, you've got to to stop it. Oh, shooting in the head doesn't do it. You got to lop off limbs because they can survive without its head. So you got to lop off some limbs so it can't go anywhere. And they got to lop that torso into pieces.
Fun.
Yeah. Oh no, it can be terrifying, especially when you've just unloaded a bunch of shots into his chest and you realize, oh fuck, that's not where it's weak. But yeah, easily one of the scariest games I've played in a long time. And this was the second time I played it, because the original time on the 360, scared the shit out of me. The second time playing through, still scared the shit out of me, even though I knew where all the fucking scares were. And that's
the sign of a well done game, though.
Oh, exactly. Now, what's amazing is EA kind of tanked the series after the second one. They basically had a lot of high hopes for Dead Space 3 and tried to turn it into like a microtransaction, like cornucopia of money, which unfortunately made it less of a scary game, more of a sort of a buddy action cop game, because you could actually play co-op with it. So they basically decided, nope, no more Dead Space. They disbanded the entire studio, and well, everyone lived happily ever after with Dead Space in the Horizon. Oh wait, but no, Capcom revives Resident Evil with Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3. They reinvigorated it with Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8. So like it's the old Resident Evil games with a much fresher coat of paint on it, and with a lot more realistic and terrifying components added onto it. So EA took one good look at this and goes, "Huh, we should do a horror game. Oh wait, we did one. Let's remake it." So they're remaking Dead Space with a lot of the stuff that had to remain on the cutting room floor because the hardware limitations of the Xbox 360 couldn't handle some of the stuff they wanted to do. They also brought back the guy who voiced Isaac Clarke in Dead Space 2. Dead Space 2 he had dialogue. Dead Space 1 he did not. He was just a silent protagonist kind of thing. So what they've done is they brought in the original voice actor to come back and record voiceovers where things actually made sense for him to actually respond. So it's going to be kind of an entirely like a similar yet completely different experience. So I'm going to be shitting my pants in Technicolor this time.
I just really hope they fix the one. There's this big plot hole in the game where there's the security chief. And he gets wounded by a necromorph and he kind of falls down. He's sitting there and he's like, no, you got to go on, take this key code and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, just around the corner over there, I could drag your body as one of the health units that would, fix your injury. And it's just I can see the glow from the unit. It's right there. Just let me grab your armor and drag you over and put you in. And you'll get healed, and you can't. You just watch them die. And I was just like, man, that's cold. You shouldn't have had it. Just to me, in the term of game design, they shouldn't have had like the health unit that goddamn close to where this guy collapses. You're like, if you can't get there under your own power, I'm sure Isaac is strong enough to pick you up and carry your dumb ass over there and jam you into it. So you have a buddy to help you with this shit. No, nope, he's gonna die. Well. Take your key card. Thanks, sir. Yeah.
Now, this is a remake, not a remaster, right?
Remake, right from the ground up.
Right from the ground up. Okay, cool, yeah. Cool.
They're so one of the big changes in the gameplay that they're doing is so they're keeping the severed limbs the way they were, but what they're going to have is instead of just aiming for the arms or the shoulders, there's going to be kind of a flaying mechanic. It basically punch through the skin, punch through the bone, punch through the muscles, kind of thing. So you're going to actually see the damage as it's happening. It's not just one shot, the limb pops off.
Right.
So it's going to add a little bit more tension to the fight.
Now, I did love the design of Isaac's armor. Instead of having like a health gauge up in the corner, there's like down his spine are these little lights of the armor. And as you take damage, the lights go away until eventually, if all the lights go out, you're dead. So it was a nice mechanic for, knowing how much health you have without saying, "Hey, look at my health bar."
It's basically the GUI, but built directly into the character itself. Like you can see how much of the their static force or what do they call it? Kinetic force.
Yeah.
Basically, you can see all of the game mechanics on the back of the character's suit, rather than being like big health bars and shit all over the screen.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
It gives you a much more immersive sort of environment.
Yeah, because the game's third-person perspective, so you wouldn't have these things in your HUD if you're not inside the helmet with them, sort of thing. So it made it a nice way of being able to know, your different stats without having them cluttering up the screen.
All right. So according to EA official site, the sci-fi survival horror classic Dead Space, TM, returns January 27th, 2023, completely rebuilt to offer an even more immersive experience. So get ready to change those shorts, Gavin.
After your birthday.
There's going to be a few extra pairs.
Just make sure for your birthday, you get a nice big stack of underwear.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can see this, but this is the art of Dead Space.
Mm-hmm.
Picked up a little while back, and absolutely gorgeous concept art Like you can see like the suit designs, you can see like the necromorph designs. Like, god damn, these things are gross looking.
Yeah,
It's the face a mother
I've seen
could
in the
love.
past. I've seen in the past a couple of cosplayers that have redone the armor and all that sort of thing. And knowing what I've seen, because John Callum is always playing the video games, and I'm watching people playing the video games because that's how I enjoy video games, is watching other people play video games. Because if you can be enthralled by a story just by watching someone else play a video game, that's a pretty damn good video game. So watching someone else playing a video game is a hell of a lot easier for me to enjoy a video game because I could never get the controls right. I mean, it took me forever just to get through, like I said, my favorite video game, Arkham Asylum, because I could never keep straight which buttons on the controller did what and all that sort of thing. But again, yeah, it's a fabulous looking game to begin with, and hey, a new version sounds good, and especially seeing it's built from the ground up, which is always a nice thing, because sometimes a remaster just doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
Not enough attention to detail in some, or they just make it as cut and dry as possible. It's just no effort in trying to improve anything.
Well, for example, Udon Studio in Toronto, they were tasked with doing Street Fighter for, I think it was for Xbox, or it might have been PlayStation, one of those. So they were having to redraw all of the existing art to kind of like, smoothen it out and all that sort of stuff. So they had the people there, you would get the still frame and you'd redraw the character with nice crisp lines, and you get the next one, you might do a couple of in-betweens. But the problem they had was everyone wasn't drawing at the same scale. And sometimes when it was being scanned, there was no one kind of like, oh, we'll make sure all the drawings fit into this kind of bounding box. So when they go to playback, the characters are like wildly changing inside as the animation plays.
How the hell does that get overlooked?
Whoever was doing scanning wasn't locking things down. So, in terms of pegs, everything's locked in terms of its position. But the character suddenly, 3 times the size as before, the very next frame, tiny. And so the characters were just going crazy. So now they had to go back and hire someone to digitally resize all the characters so that they were the exact same size. But then you'd have like Ken is like 10 times the height of Ryu because the way that they scanned it. So they had to then go and they had to get a lineup of the characters. They actually had to buy an art of book. They had all the characters lined up to see the different character heights to make sure that Zangief was the right height compared to Chun-Li. It was just like, oh my God.
Wow.
So yeah. So that's why
I bought the Switch version, which is essentially the only version of that HD remade version of Street Fighter 2.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
Yeah, I talked to some people who were working on it, and they were like, it's because they were working away, because some of the people were working on large versions on their tablet or like on their screen or whatnot, so that they could really play with line thickness and thick and thin. And then they had to ditch some of that because you have lines boiling for no apparent reason, because I drew it with nice thick and thin lines, but the guy doing the in-betweens did it with like wire line. So the lines would be constantly like boiling up and down, up and down, up and down. So they're like, we got to standardize this. And like this character's all drawn with like wire bent line. This character's all drawn with thick and thin lines. It was just like, we got to standardize it. We and they were on such a tight deadline to get this done because they'd already announced this was coming. And they're like, so we need, and then so they got the studio screaming at them, we need this artwork now because we got to like give it to the programmers so they can put it in the game engine. And they're like, we can't give them to them like this. We've got to work some extra long hours and get this standardized and done. So yeah. That's why sometimes a remastering is not so good.
Yeah. All right. So back to the subject of spooky time of the year. This is the time of the year when, a lot of horror films get dropped on us. Nowadays, a lot more are getting direct to home video or on streaming services. Few make to the theaters. I wasn't able to join in last week with Trevor's review of Halloween Ends. Well, it's a good thing that's over with. That's all I really have to say about that.
It better be fucking ended. There should be no more Halloween.
Yeah, no, I think no. I mean, it was nice to see Jamie Lee Curtis back as, and I'm including all three movies. I'm including those, like the 2018 was a fantastic return to the series, and okay, there was a problem with Halloween Kills just because they came under a lot of protocol for COVID when it was being shot, and then that they couldn't go directly into making Halloween Ends and they had to wait. So,
yeah,
okay, sure. What you wanted to do, you weren't able to do, so you had to stumble with what you had, and unfortunately, you didn't pull off a good series. That first movie, fantastic movie. If it had ended there, perfectly fine. That second one, oh, okay. I will admit that I did enjoy Ends more than Kills because
it ends.
It has a nice Michael Myers end to it. It could go on, it could stop right there, whatnot. Stuck in a sewer, someone else's Michael. I'm like, no, it's just
the boyfriend somehow overpowering Michael and taking his mask.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, I will admit that I did not see the opening sequence coming. When that happens to that kid, I was like, oh my God, you're starting the movie off with like, oh my God. And then you're going to start with such a high, you better bring it for the rest of your movie. But
they didn't.
And unfortunately, I mean, there are some interesting kills, but it's not.
In the writer's room when they were like, I know, she needs a boyfriend who turns out to be, and she's just like, really? I think that person at that point was like, get out. Just whoever was just like, get out. We don't want to hear from you. But no, they were like, let's run with it.
Yeah, but I also think again, because of what they had to go through, they had to do so many rewrites because they couldn't do what they wanted to do. They wanted to shoot the 3 movies back to back to back. And then they got the first one done, and then they had to shoot the second one during COVID, and then they decided, okay, let's take a break and do this third one because they just lost the momentum. And it just,
you think that if they're going to take a break between, the second and third, go over the script again and go, maybe we can make this better.
Yeah,
a lot better. Maybe let's bring in a 5-year-old to go through it and point out all the flaws.
Yeah,
which they did.
I mean, and it also had a problem with pacing, and again, I don't think
the editing was just terrible.
Yeah, I mean, for a modern horror film, I mean, again, to have such a strong start, it's just like, this is like the 13th Michael Myers movie out of all the Michael Myers movies. This is like the 13th one, and more than likely it will be the last one.
It stumbled its way along
until someone like a Rob Zombie comes along and reinvents it, sort of thing.
Oh God, no, I hope not.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to be like Rob Zombie, but speaking of Rob Zombie, I watched The Munsters.
You did watch it.
I did watch it, and okay, so basically,
I was curious about this one. Okay.
So basically, this is the story of how Herman met Lily. Okay, back in Transylvania, sort of thing. We go through how Herman gets created, how he gets his name, how he meets Lily, and the Count, because he doesn't go by Grandpa because, well, Lily isn't married yet and doesn't have any kids and all that. It is such a Technicolor dream version of a Rob Zombie film, because if you've seen Rob Zombie stuff, you know how he likes to put everything into his backgrounds. He likes to have you, like, if you want to pause a scene and look around in the background, there's something for you to see. This movie, because what they do is they use the makeup style from the TV series, because of course, like we all know, the black and white programming was actually shot with colored makeup. So it would look differently on the black and white screen. So when the movies came to color television, they still used the same makeup. So you saw how green Herman was, how gray Lily was, and all that. And the Technicolor shades that they use are all throughout the whole entire first part of this movie. It's all Technicolor dreams. It's all these psychedelic lighting in the background and all that sort of thing. It's very cheesy. You can tell Rob Zombie loves the Munsters.
So cheesy in a good way. Like,
it is cheesy.
Extra cheese on pizza and lasagna. For sure.
Oh yes, yeah. And I mean, if you're not a fan of the Munsters, you're probably not going to like this, because it has its goofy jokes. It has its sound effects as like an added touch to a particular joke. It has like the wink, making the wink sound effect when someone does something or like that. Jeff Daniels Phillips, who plays Herman Munster, who was originally done by Fred Gwyer, does a really good Fred Gwyer impression. I mean, he doesn't do an exact impression. He does his version of it, and it's very close. Like, he does a half decent impression of Herman's laugh. Sherry Moon Zombie, who plays Lily, which was originally Yvonne DiCarlo, does a almost exact imitation of her, like a younger version of the character, but still, like, she has the flow of her body, the way she speaks, the way she holds herself, the way Yvonne DiCarlo did in the original series. Daniel Roebuck, who plays the Count, who is Grandpa Munster in the TV series and all that, who was played by Al Lewis, does a really good impression of a younger version of the Al Lewis character. And it's really neat to see. They add a couple of like other characters, like in the castle they have Igor, who is played by Sylvester McCoy, which is kind of neat to see, the Seventh Doctor. One part, the real estate agent that once Lily and Herman get married and move to America, the real estate agent that gets them their final home, that 1313, is Cassandra Peterson, who is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, which is kind of neat. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really cool look to it. One of the funniest parts of the thing is they move into their house on Halloween night. So when they show up, the whole entire neighborhood is into Halloween. So there's all these ghouls and monsters and all that sort of thing. So there's this big block party where there's this like party going on, and the Munsters end up winning a contest as the best horror looking group and all that sort of thing. But the next day, when Herman wakes up and goes outside and see that the whole entire neighborhood is turned back into normal humans, they're terrified beyond belief because they thought they moved into a horror sort of setting area and all that. So it's a lovely tribute to the original series. I think the acting is done really well. But again, if you're not a fan of the Munsters, you're probably not going to really want to watch this. I don't think this is going to appeal to a younger crowd, because it is so relies on you knowing the lore and you knowing what's going to happen and what has happened, sort of thing. But I really enjoyed it because I'm a fan of the series to begin with, and I think Rob Zombie did a fantastic job. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's surprisingly like almost 2 hours long, and he does a lot of his whole entire. There's a lot of like television watching back in Transylvania, and of course they're watching all like old black and white movies and all that sort of thing. Like there's a couple of the Abbott and Costellos going on and whatnot, like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. So you get a lot of classic monsters and all that involved with it, because you know, Rob Zombie likes to have his classic horror in there at some point. So,
he does.
Yeah.
Okay, so for someone like me, who's not a huge horror fan, but does like that kind of campy style, it's like there's a certain line where I go to. Do you think that would be something I would enjoy?
It is listed as a horror comedy.
Yeah.
There's nothing scary about this movie. There's nothing gross about this movie. It's a 60s TV series. I think it's 60s. Yeah, it's a 60s or 50s.
Is it something I could watch with the family?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's no bad language. There's no nudity. There's no, like I said, there's no graphic violence. It's just, but again, I don't think a younger crowd is going to enjoy it that don't already know the characters to begin with, because it's kind of neat to see these characters, and it's impressive that this seems like a logical pre-story to what we know of the TV series.
Right.
Yeah.
Should be fine, Mike. It's rated PG.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The other one of the other movies that was recently released on home video is I think one that Trevor saw, and that was Jeepers Creepers Reborn.
Hey.
Is that the review? Okay, on to the next movie.
Yeah.
Are you gonna go further than that?
It's one of those. It's a movie that tries to make the previous movies meta into their own storyline. Like this is a myth that got turned into a couple of movies. I think they made 3 at one point. One of the characters thinks, I think they made 3.
Yeah.
You are currently watching the 4th movie, sort of thing. It's wow. It's really didn't need to be there.
Rotten Tomatoes gave it 0%.
Yeah. It's
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not much to it. The Jeepers Creeper costume is kind of cool. I mean,
not really.
They update it with a little more modern day, like, special effects. The wings on the thing work a lot more than it has in the past. They actually do get nice movement because it's all computer generated that works well.
Mm-hmm.
Than previous versions of it. But yeah, no, it's not really. I mean, if you're a completist, you might not be too impressed with this. But the opening of the movie, the actual little segment from that mystery show about the Jeepers Creeper was kind of neat. But other than that, it's a bit of gore. It's a bit of a bunch of kids getting picked off one by one. I mean, not even the characters are that interesting. The pregnant girl, like our main, she's not even that like they're not fleshed out. They're not. It's
terrible. It's just an absolute travesty of a film. I mean, so I like the first 2 Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though 1 had a couple of questions, like, did he register this truck? How did he get this truck? Did he build this truck?
Yeah, exactly.
Where did he get his driver's license? Stuff like that. 2 to me filled out the lore on the creeper. The fact that, this creature hibernates for 33 years, comes out.
I thought it was 27.
No, it was like 30 something or whatever it is.
Okay. Anyways,
but basically it hibernates for a long period of time and then is active for like about a little over a month, and then it goes back to hibernating again.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, it's immortal. You could rip off its head and it'll just grow a new one back up. It digests body parts to replace its own sort of thing. It has a storage, it has wings. Jeepers Creepers 2 had one of the best opening sequences of the young kid is checking out scarecrows, and he walks up to the one scarecrow and realizes that it's moved somehow. Like, was looking at him. When he looks at the head, turns back, and when he gets close, he can look at the feet, and they're all clawed, and realizes, oh shit, this isn't what it's supposed to be, and begins to run, and the creeper jumps on him, and the dad and the older brother come running out as the creeper flies away with the kid. It helped establish a lot of the lore, because the first movie, you were just constant questions of, so he had this oubliette, little death chamber underneath the barn that he had, everything was cloaked in human skin and stuff, but still had the questions of where did he get the truck and how did he learn to drive and who licensed this truck, and because he even had like a personalized license plate. So imagining the creeper standing at the DMV, petitioning, with the forms to get this personalized license plate, and you're like, I don't think that happens. I think they'd be like, no, go back to the line. And then he kills everyone in the DMV. Anyways, so to me, the second movie was really nice, because it helped explain the lore of the character. 3 was fucking terrible, and then this one was just, I have
unnecessary.
Actually blotted it out of my memory of it even existing. It's terrible.
Yeah. So. Well, also the first one just came out of nowhere. It was just it was its own brand new story.
It was, and it was kind of like really hard leaning into the song that they were playing, the Jeepers Creepers. Where'd you get those Creepers?
Yeah. I saw this when I was working at the movie theater. I think I saw it like 2 or 3 times because it was fabulous. And it's actually one of the first horror movies that I can ever remember having a end credit scene, which was kind of neat, because at the end of the first movie, it seems like he's gone for good. And then at the very end, you have that friggin' truck zipping by with its horn going and all that. And like you said, the second one is good because it fills in pretty much every single question you had from the end of the first one gets answered in the second one, and you get a little more of the except for the truck. Yes,
except for the truck.
The truck is not, the truck. Why no truck? Yeah. And again, the third one, but this, I mean, it just cost me the time to watch it. I just watched because I wanted to see how creative the kills got, which is the only, if that's the reason why you're watching a movie now, it's not really worth it. If you just want, you might as well watch a best of reel or something like that with the special effects company that actually put it together. I will say that the makeup on the Creeper looked fantastic. I mean, it's been how many years since the last time we've seen him on screen, and it's kind of nice to see it. But again, not seeing it on a big screen because it was released to home video sort of thing, so it was fine. But it was definitely not worth the time that I sat through and watched it. It's probably something that I would throw on in the background at like a Halloween party on a screen, so that people are like, "Ooh, what's this?" sort of thing. But you don't have to listen to it as long as you just watch the kills and all that sort of thing. It's all right.
Now, unfortunately, the guy who created the character of the Creeper, Victor Salva, not a savory sort of individual, which is kind of
unfortunately.
He got child sex abuse and child pornography charges. He went to jail for 15 months, but it still kind of taints the whole thing.
Which is another reason why it probably took so long for this final one to come out, and the fact that they tried to call it a Reborn sort of thing.
It's a terrible, like, don't see it.
And I got another terrible movie that also came out recently on home video. Actually, it might have gotten a small theatrical release in some places in the States and all that, but I saw Spirit of Halloween, the movie. And I was going to watch it. Okay, first of all, if you're advertising a movie with Christopher Lloyd in it, I'm going to watch a Christopher Lloyd movie. I am disappointed that there is not very much Christopher Lloyd in this movie. And the fact that I am a former Spirit of Halloween employee also sort of made it kind of interesting. But it is okay. It's not what I was expecting. I was expecting something a little more, but I don't know why I was thinking a little more. This is more Goosebumps than anything else. This is I wouldn't say family friendly, because they use a lot of the animatronics. These kids sneak into a Spirit Halloween on Halloween evening and try to stay the whole entire night. And it turns out that there's an evil spirit in the abandoned house that the Spirit Halloween moved into, because that's what Spirit Halloween moves into, abandoned buildings. That has basically possessed all the animatronics. So they use actual animatronics from the actual stores, and it's all the spooky sort of things that little kids like run away from, because you hit that footpad and suddenly the clown jumps out at you and stuff like that. So it's very triggering in that way, because it uses a lot of the stuff that people get scared of at Spirit Halloween when you go in, all the displays and all that. This year they had this giant symbol monkey that even I will admit looked creepy as hell, because it's not a small little monkey.
No.
It's like a 4 foot tall monkey. And
here they had
freaky as all hell.
Regan from The Exorcist.
Yes.
And instead of the foot pads, it was like the old electrical panel. You turn it like
the little switch on the exactly.
And when she turns, it was like, oh, and they got it eerily accurate. To Regan from The Exorcist.
And again, over the years, they've gotten better and better and all that. But unfortunately, there isn't a lot. They use a lot of their own Spirit Halloween property because it's available to them. Unfortunately, they just use the props themselves, so they don't actually make characters of these characters. So it's just the props. I mean, they become a little more animated than they do in the store and all that, but it's nothing much more than that. And again, like I said, it's more Goosebumps scares than anything else. So I mean, for a again, I wouldn't give it to a young audience, that's for sure, because I'm pretty sure my daughter would be terrified of just when they walk into the store, because they show like, some people don't like clowns, and you know what? Halloween clowns are kind of creepy, but I don't mind them. But some people in this household do. But yeah, so stuff like that. So I mean, for the audience that it's shooting, it's hitting that preteen, just below preteen sort of thing, mid school and all that sort of thing. It works fine for that. It's got in a half decent story. The kids are quite believable. They're actually the main characters, the three main characters that go into the place, they work well together. They act well together. When these characters are scared, you definitely see the terror in their face, sort of thing. But again, it's nothing much more than a Goosebumps movie without Jack Black. I mean, it's nice that Christopher Lloyd is like bookends the whole entire thing. It's kind of nice to see Christopher Lloyd and all that. But yeah, I mean, I would suggest it to those that have, again, not little kids, but little older than that they probably would enjoy it, sort of thing. All right.
Good
so I think that's
times.
going to bring us to the end of this particular episode, now that we're rambling and meandering on with storylines and all that. Yeah.
Now we have to start coming up with our next lists. So we probably
Gavin still didn't finish top 10 number 1, but that's a different story.
So what is your number 1, Gav?
What is my one? Shit, I'm not prepared at all. I haven't written anything down.
Don't worry, but we know what it is.
Extremely long paragraph.
Just tell the people what it is.
Okay. Well.
Hey, Gavin, what's your number 1?
Oh, good question. Good question. I haven't really thought about it, but
Porky's Revenge.
Porky's 2 the next day.
Oh, fuck that.
Porky's 3 the Revenge?
Released in 2010, DreamWorks released an adaptation of a popular children's book series called How to Train Your Dragon, starring Jay Baruchel, Gerard Butler, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Craig Ferguson, America Ferrera, Jonah Hill, and Kristen Wiig. First time I saw the trailers for this movie, I started getting this feeling it was going to be something special. Hiccup, the inept son of the Viking chief Stoic, tries to prove himself worthy of the name Viking in a world where dragons roam the earth and raid villages for food. Hiccup manages to shoot down a Night Fury, one of the rarest dragons out there, to no one's belief, and then goes off to show everyone he was responsible. To his surprise, the dragon, who he names Toothless, is nothing like what he was taught to fear. Knowing that if others found out he spared Toothless's life, he hid his newfound friendship, only to have it all coming crashing down. And when the village finds he's, oh good lord, sorry,
that's okay. It's okay if you stroke your pussy.
Oh wow.
Hey.
Knowing if the others found out he spared Toothless's life, he hid his newfound friendship, only to have it all come crashing down when the village finds out he's using tricks that he's learned from trying to train Toothless. The breathtaking flying scenes where Hiccup learns to fly with Toothless, the sheer emotional payoff as he tries to win Toothless friendship, and the epic jaw-dropping final battle. I've dealt with some painful events in my life, and seeing Toothless's sacrifice in saving Hiccup had me in absolute tears. I saw it 3 times, the third time in IMAX. Each time I saw something new to appreciate. So many subtle jokes with the adult characters hit the older viewers a bit different. But it's one I will willingly and gleefully show to anyone who has never seen it before, because I know it's going to be a comfortable and enjoyable watch every single time. Just one of my absolute favorites. Even the sequels may not have been quite as good as the first one. They were still no slouch. And that's my number 1.
Awesome.
That's a solid number 1, Gavin. And yeah, I think like when we mentioned the other time when we found out, well, you weren't on the podcast, that your number 1 was How to Train Your Dragons. Yeah, definitely. That is something, again, I don't think it would be in my top 10. And like Mike said, it'd probably be out of animated features. It definitely would be up there. But yeah, no, it's a definite solid number 1 for you.
Yeah, that's one of the animated films that came out, and it was something different. It, there was I don't know, a charisma. There's a life to it. The story, it actually felt like it meant something, and
the characters felt authentic.
Exactly.
That's one of the big things.
Yeah.
You know that god awful DreamWorks smirk that every single character seems to always have.
Yep.
That was, I don't recall that ever being shown in How to Train Your Dragon. Not once.
And that was the other thing about it. This is DreamWorks, completely different animation from any other DreamWorks animation we'd seen at that point, which is a fascinating thing. And the fact that the characters are so like cartoony as a style, but have such fabulous realistic dimension to them and all that. And it was just a fascinating movie to see. And I would have loved to have seen that movie in IMAX. That I wouldn't even have thought of going to see that. And unfortunately, I never saw it in the theater.
I didn't either. I saw it afterwards. And Chris Sanders involvement with that. Like, he's one of those animation guys who, when he touches things, I tend to like it. Lilo and Stitch.
Whoa, wait. Who's this again, Mike?
Chris
When he
Sanders.
touches what?
When he touches things.
Right. You tend to like it.
I tend to like it.
Okay.
That's what I said. You can quote me on that.
All right. I'm putting that on the cover.
He is like, he brings humanity to the projects he's involved in. It's I don't know, it's very honest. Like Lilo and Stitch is one where, with the Stitch character is great, and Lilo was a great character, and the whole, again, this was one, like, I had lived in Hawaii, so experiencing that movie, I felt it the whole way through. And he's done a bunch of independent projects where what's it called, Kiskalu? It's like a sort of a Calvin Hobbes comic strip. Really great. All the stuff he works on, he brings a sort of humanity to whatever it is, whether it's the comic or the movie. And this one definitely had that, and I appreciate that. I love it when people kind of, I guess, spill their soul into the art, and it's honest. And definitely How to Train Your Dragon had that.
I mean, it showed how much attention they put into it. Toothless alone, like, animal lovers look at Toothless. If you're a dog person, you see Toothless basically acting like a dog. If you're a cat person, you see Toothless acting like a cat. And, like, everything about him is endearing him more and more and more to the animal lover in you. I mean, if they suddenly announced Toothless the movie, and it's just Toothless fucking around on screen for like 2 hours, I'd be all over it. I'd be like, yeah, all right, this is a great use of my 2 hours. Certainly better than Black Adam, apparently.
No, what's funny is I saw an interview with Chris Sanders and Dean DuBois, who did Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon. And Lilo and Stitch, the fight they had versus Disney, to not include a bunch of songs into it, led them to jumping ship after they finished Lilo and Stitch, and they were just like, enough with the fucking songs in films. Like, the characters don't need to spontaneously break out into song for no apparent reason. And Disney execs are like, well, it has to be songs in here. There's got to be a song. It's an animated film. There has to be songs. And so they fought tooth and nail to keep the songs out of Lilo and Stitch. But that particular fight led to them, jumping and going to do How to Train Your Dragon. And again, DreamWorks was like, no, you don't have any songs. What the fuck did we put a song in there for? So yeah. And it was funny. I mean, I remember like watching that interview and thinking, yeah, I mean, that's sticking to your guns. I mean, Chris wrote this film, and he wrote it with the idea there wouldn't be any characters breaking, like Jimbo doesn't need to break into a song about how he created Stitch, which was actually one of the things that he even brings up. Like, they were all ready to like bring in a songwriter for Jumbo to sing, come up with a song about the creation of Stitch. It's like, no, he's not going to break it a song.
Listening to David Ogden Stiers sing about the creation of Stitch would have actually been kind of neat, though. I mean, he has a fantastic but it was just, voice.
Yeah, it was just that they were fed up with the Disney animation machine of, this is the formula that we do our movies with. This is where we insert our songs. It has to fit that formula. And that's part of the reason why Disney didn't promote this film as heavily as they did other ones because it didn't have songs. They can't have a soundtrack other than, whatever music played in the background sort of thing. But yeah.
Well, it was all those Elvis songs.
Yeah, it was the Elvis songs, but they couldn't have a, character singing the song, the sing along, all that sort of bullshit that Disney likes to do. So,
come on, Hawaiian roller coaster ride, it's genius. Have you guys seen the pre 9/11 cut of that whole spaceship sequence?
Yes, I did.
Yes, where it actually goes through the buildings. Have you seen? So since
it's an actual airline, so they switched it into a spaceship, but they actually hijacked an airplane.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and I wish that was in the film. There's something so awesome about that. It's like, hey, we got to go catch up with the spaceship. I guess we got to go hijack an airplane, and and you can see all the designs. It still looks, because obviously they reused the animation and most of the design, so you can tell it was supposed to be an actual airline, like a human plane going up against the spaceship. I thought that was genius.
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't seen that, Google it.
In the sequence where Lilo is hiding from her sister, originally she was hiding inside the dryer.
Yes.
And since they, when it came out on home video, they changed the background so she's just hiding in a cabinet as opposed to hiding inside a dryer, because they're like, we don't want kids hiding in dryers. It's just like, guys, come on. Kids aren't that dumb.
Here's a fun Tales of Animation. I was working on Backyardigans, and there's a scene where the characters jump off a train, and I thought it would be fun to do, when they jump off the train, it's a jump and tuck and roll, and apparently they thought it was too violent. They just wanted them to do like a Super Mario jump and land. It's like, they're still jumping off a train, man.
Yeah.
We're teaching the kids, if you jump, tuck and roll and absorb the impact, but no, you had to just do a Super Mario jump and run.
Yeah.
So you ended up going with the Mario jump. Is that what you're saying?
I was directed to do the Super Mario jump rather than the
no.
tuck
I'm
and roll.
I'm not saying
because it's like, whoa, this is way. Kids might want to jump off a train. The character's still jumping off the train.
Yeah.
What the hell?
It's just like, we're all fine.
Yeah.
I can't count the number of times we were told we'd have to change the way a sequence was set up because of imitatable behavior.
Yeah.
So like there was a episode of Caillou where, him and his, oh God, I can't remember what his friend was, the one in the ugly overalls. They push Rosie out of the way, the little sister, as they're running out of the room. And we get a note, no physical contact between Caillou and his sister. It's like, okay. Well, how the hell did they get by her? Because she's standing right in the doorway. And what we ended up doing is simply the door opens up, so it, you see Rosie, but when we change the shot, the door is blocking our view of Rosie, so we don't actually see how they get by her, because that was the only way we could do it. Otherwise, it's like you got to shove her ass out of the way. She's defiantly not moving. I'm like, well, this kid's going to
push her down, son.
Yeah, so it was just like we would get notes like this.
Says
like,
no.
Yeah, you can't. And at one point, the character has to pick up the cat. Well, the characters are like, I think it was like the dad had like a handful of groceries, and he's got to pick up the cat, Albert. Which, by the way, the design of the cat looked like the cat had been run over. I mean, it had this cricket at the tail, because we had to design other cats, and we had to use that cat as the basis of the design. And I remember one of the designers was like, "This cat does not look like a cat. How can we design other cats to look like it that don't look like horror shows?" And we would get notes from the producers like, this cat does not match the style of Albert. And we're thinking, yeah, whoever designed Albert was on crack, because Albert does not look like a goddamn cat. The reason why he's a cat is people keep referring to him as a cat. Hell, it could be a raccoon we call it a cat. Anyway, the dad has groceries, and in the script it says dad moves Albert, or picks up Albert and moves him out of the way. And we're looking at it, we're like, huh. And the storyboard artist who he's like, well, how do you move a cat with one hand? You grab it by the scruff of the neck. You pick it up and you push it to the side. Nope. Imitatable behavior. Kids would go around trying to be picking up cats with one hand. So the producer said, well, he would use two hands and gently pick up the cat with both hands and gently set it down. So for one scene, the groceries disappear. Dad's carrying the groceries, looks down, sees the cat, magically reaches down with 2 hands, picks up the cat, sets the cat to the side. We jump back to the long shot. Dad has the groceries back in his hand, and he walks into the house. And we were all like, floating groceries? Maybe he's got an anti-grab unit just hovering there, waiting for him to grab it again. They never explained it. It's in broadcast. So yeah, exactly. It was just like, yeah, we would get scripts. Like there was the wedding script where Caillou's at a friend's wedding, like the friends of the family wedding, and he goes into the barn, he jumps into a pile of hay, and the script says Caillou steps out of the hay bale and brushes hair or hay from his suit and hair. Kid's bald. There ain't no hair in his hair, like hay gonna be in his hair. And we would just be like, this is obviously a recycled script from another show. And again, the same storyboard artist. So we see the image. Caillou has reams of hay sticking out of his ears and like sitting on his eyebrows. It was just like, don't think they're going to let that one fly. And then flick them off his eyebrows. Best maybe he's got hair in his ears. That's about the way we could guess it. So, yeah.
I think it's really nice to see that not only do people not enjoy the series Caillou, but the people that worked on the show Caillou didn't seem to enjoy working on the show Caillou either.
So we had a note on the back wall. So there was the three of us sitting there. It was Craig, myself, and Weston, and we had a banner on the back wall that said "No imitatable behavior," because that was part of our. We would get notes every week about, oh, can't do this because that's imitatable behavior.
Did you guys put up that sign, or did they put up that sign?
We put up the sign, but then we would put up drawings around that sign, like Caillou standing with his arm straight out, holding Rosie by the top of by her hair, dangling her over a cliff. Is this imitatable? Stuff like that. So yeah,
Caillou holding a quart of Jack Daniels or something.
Oh yeah, stuff like imitatable. I mean, there was so much stuff on that show that we had to deal with.
Wow.
And again, I mean, I've said before, like we got to choose every time the characters got a new costume. Well, guess who got to choose the colors? So we made sure that Caillou's best friend was dressed in the worst possible color combinations. Like his snowsuit was like pink and brown. When he had to wear a striped sweater, well, he's gonna be a bee. It's gonna be black and yellow. And eventually we got notes saying, could this character not look like his parents were shopping at the Salvation Army? Could they possibly color coordinate? So I guess the purple and yellow pants just didn't go with his like bright orange top. I don't know.
Come on, everybody knows one kid whose parents shopped at the Sally Ann. I mean,
well, I mean, we looked at it as there were so many little inconsistencies. Like, dad's a brunette, mom's a brunette, Caillou's bald as a billiard ball, little sister has like bright red hair.
Yeah.
In fact, the exact same color code as Caillou's best friend's hair and Caillou's best friend's mom's hair was that color. So we figured. Yeah, the dad would probably have the same hair. So Caillou's best friend's dad and Caillou's mom maybe did something. And coincidentally, the mailman had the same color hair. So we figured Rosie not be 100% related to Caillou that way. Same mother, maybe not same father. And then the next door neighbor, Mr. Oh God, well, I can't even think of his name. We always had a running joke where he was a pedophile because like he always seemed to be peeking over the fence at Caillou and his friends. And when there's the episode where Caillou learns to ride a bike, dad's running with Caillou, hand on the seat pushing, mom's running with Caillou, and the neighbor, for no apparent reasons, running with Caillou with the hand on the seat. So we extended that scene where Caillou's just trying to frantically ride away from the neighbor who's like, come back, I can't put my hand on your ass if you ride too fast.
Oh, Trevor, you're gonna get emails for this.
Oh yeah, probably.
I've got one. I admittedly I only worked in the animation industry for a couple of years. I worked at Amberwood Productions on a show called Hose Hounds, And basically, it's trying to explain to people what I did at Amberwood Studios was because I worked on Pumper Pups, which was a show about firefighting dogs, and I worked on Hose Hounds, which was a show about firefighting dogs. Pumper Pups was aimed at kids. That's Leslie Nielsen was the narrator for it, so it was this whole morals thing, you know. But Hose Hounds tried its best to be wacky, like Warner Brothers style cartoon stuff. And one of the episodes, as they all do, and ended up being sort of a sports theme. So the wacky main cast is involved with the football team, and I was tasked with setting up the posing for several crowd scenes. The character design packet we got for the crowd scene consisted of like 3 people, 3 characters, and we're like, the fuck are we going to make a crowd out of this? So then we started looking at each other in the room, the room that we were at, and we're like, okay. We started drawing all of ourselves as Hosehound characters, and so one of the guys, I drew a version of him, basically doing possibly one of the most suggestively eating of a 12-inch long hot dog, like full mouth open, cradling the hot dog in the bun,
fondling the balls
so lovingly. I'm not entirely sure it got past the censors, but we had a lot of fun with that scene.
Yeah, I worked on Katie and Orby, that was being done through Lacewood, but we were working at another studio, and we would get like crowd scene, and the storyboard artist would have like, well, here's Katie and here's Orby, and then just a box with a circle on it that just says crowd scene, meaning fill up the people, like just fill up the box with people. And so we would get notes like, please, no licensed characters like Boba Fett or Darth Vader or anything like that. But so we would draw people in the studios. And I remember this one guy, he spent so long because it was a long pan. And he probably had to draw like 60, 70 people in this crowd. And then just head shapes in behind them to kind of fill it out. And he got this note saying, why are all these ugly people standing out front? And he's just like, these are caricatures of the people I work with done in the Katie Orby style. And he was told he had to make them more attractive. And he's like, because I mean, because he just walked around the studio and do like a quick sketch of each person and what you were wearing that day and put you in. So sometimes you appeared 3 or 4 times within that pan, depending on how long it took him to do it. And it was just like, and so he came to us as a group and he's like, you're all ugly. And we're like, what? And he's like, according to the execs, you're all ugly because I have to redraw all of you better, like looking better, so you don't distract from people from looking at Katie and Orby. And then someone said, I'd be offended if it was a better show.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, man.
Tales of Animation.
Yeah.
Should be able to do a podcast called that.
Yeah, we probably could. Yeah. So I think this just might wrap up episode, 58 now?
That is correct.
All right. Well, how do we end this again? Oh, yes, a collective goodbye. Can we do it, gentlemen?
We're gonna thank everyone for listening in. We're gonna thank everyone for going to our different social medias.
No.
And,
Trevor's gonna ask why they're listening.
Thank you for your patience and thank you for your tolerance.
We thank you for your support. That's Bartle and James. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not going to ask people why they're listening because at this point, I don't know if I can bring myself to, because I don't know.
Because they love us, Trevor. Just accept that.
If they loved us, they would shower us with money and praise. Or at least praise.
Yeah, they would, wouldn't they?
Yes.
Maybe they don't love us.
Have some. All right. So thank you for listening. I have no idea how long this episode went, but I'm guessing it's long.
We're hitting the almost we're coming up on 2.5 hours.
Oh, Lord.
That's pretty good considering I watched nothing this week.
Yeah.
The Expanse.
Yeah. So Mike, could you get off your ass and actually watch some stuff that does not.
Okay, here's your assignment.
I've got 4 more seasons to go.
Oh,
Okay.
fuck.
Yeah, I think it's time for a
Shots
collective
fired.
goodbye.
All right. 3, 2,
Don't screw it up, Gavin.
1.
Collective goodbye.
Troy, what did you do?
I because I only see Mike in here, and I'm like, I'm starting. Can you guys hear me? I'm going. Oh no, no one else is talking.
And we're done. Good night, folks.
All right. Good night, folks.
Bye-bye.
This has been Geeking Off the Page, a Planet Geek production. Please be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can find us at our social medias through Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Search for Planet Geek Productions. On Instagram and Twitter, Planet Geek Pod. Or you can send us an email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. So until next bat time, same Spider Channel, may the Force be with you, and thanks for tuning in.
Anyone else?
Well, we're coming down to the wire of the end of Halloween. Only got like just over a week to go. Everyone, I take it, is not quite ready for it, because whoever is ready for Halloween, especially those with kids, there's never enough time to prep for Halloween.
Never.
Some
is.
of us
Gavin?
are already dressed. Yeah.
I haven't even bought Halloween candy yet for this year. That's how. And I've got a trunk or treat on Tuesday, so I have to get some candy by Monday.
There you go.
So
Mike, are you planning on sleeping in that for the entire week?
I plan on wearing this till next Halloween.
He's going to be buried in it.
That is some commitment.
But Mike, I thought you were going to do Peacemaker for next year.
Next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next year. Jiraiya this year.
You know, when
Peacemaker
season
next year.
season 2.
Yeah, I gotta hit the gym and
get back
fill
into
out the
fighting
soup,
shape.
man. Yeah. Learn the dance moves.
Yeah, you have to learn that dance. All of it.
I was actually doing it for the Halloween party we had tonight. You know, the music was playing. I was doing the Peacemaker dance wearing the Jiraiya outfit. It was amazing. Trying to do it in the sandals, like the samurai sandals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
They're surprisingly comfortable. Just weird angles. That's all.
I'm also implementing costumes.
Oh, God damn it.
Mike, you don't have to keep wearing the whole entire costume all week long. Take it off now.
Wash it at least once.
Yeah.
If we're doing costumes, I'm just gonna wear it all week.
Okay, then fine. It should be well lived in by then.
Holy shit. It'll hopefully look better next week. Anyways.
Yeah, exactly.